Hello divas, dudes, and dolls, I'm Caricature, and welcome to my shocking, short, and shady little review show, Very Slay, where we go over each and every one of the runways on Drag Race España All-Stars. I have had a lot of eye strain from staring at screens all morning and working basically from like 5 a.m. until about 2 hours ago. It is now 5:20 and non-stop on devices, and I've got an 8-hour stream to plow through after this. Put explosion noises in. I look like I'm on Top Gun, and hopefully you like it. If you do, feel free to subscribe, comment, all that jazz. I would appreciate it. For anyone who is new to the channel, if I think a look that we talk about today is just passable, gets the job done, but nothing fancy, we give it an okay. If I love it, we give it a slay, and if I don't, we give it a nay. So we've only got 5 looks, so each person has a 20% chance of becoming this week's slay of the day, which will go into a post-crowning ranking video with a whole bunch of things from Jiriji and one of Sethless to determine my slay of the season. And the look in that video that comes out on top, I will be drawing. Now, I will say, my opinions on this one may surprise you all. I had very particular thoughts about this episode, and I will say, watching Marta Mamma's video validated all of them. If you want to know my opinions on who did best in the challenge, how the roast went, which I thought was a very good roast. I really enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was very funny across the board. I did think some things were weird in terms of editing structure. So watching Marta's video just kind of validated all of those things that I caught that I thought were strange. But the real reason I was excited to watch her video this week was because this week's runway is arguably the most culturally Spanish one of the entire season. And I'm not Spanish. I had never heard of the woman that this runway was based on before, but Marta's video really goes in and explaining the cultural significance and the cultural impact of the woman who this runway was based on. I'm gonna link her video in the description below. I've said it before and I will say it again. If you are a fan of Drag Race España, Marta Mamma's content, especially if you are not from Spain, is essential viewing. Like, for me, it gives me a whole new level of appreciation for the art that's on stage and on display, and a good look at Spanish culture, Spanish history, things that I just don't know anything about. Anyways, I don't feel like it's necessary to reiterate her talking points in my video, so I'm gonna try to do that as little as possible. This week's runway was based on the Spanish folk singer Martirio, who Supreme specifically says in the brief or the description they wanted to see flamenco dresses, pinetas, which are the combs that they would wear during flamenco dances and flamenco costumes that Martirio was very much known for, and the fans as well. And on top of that, my other reason for wanting to wear sunglasses for this video was because Martirio was famous for wearing sunglasses all the time, so I thought it was only appropriate to also wear them for today in celebration of this theme. So with that being said, let's get into these looks. First up this week, we have Jiriji Declee. Now, her look, she mentioned specifically being a reference to Alexander McQueen. There's a couple of different collections I think this is very much influenced by, Horn of Plenty being the biggest one. I did not like the silhouette of this dress. This is the first time that I saw one of Jiriji's looks and I went, oh. It's an overall very impactful look. Her look specifically is based on, I believe, the 3 of Spades in tarot. From what I understand, it's also referred to as Martirio. So it's a bit of a double entendre in that way. So her headpiece is specifically the 3 of Spades insignia. So the heart with the 3 swords going through it. That's her pineta. And then on top of that, she's got the really large sunglasses, which I don't think aesthetically really go with the rest of the look. They're a little too futuristic-y for this gown. However, this gown is also not a flamenco silhouette. My issue with this dress in particular is with these like kind of voluminous bits on the skirt. I just think they're like a little too bulky and they detract from the silhouette. They're placed in really weird spots. There's not enough exaggeration on the bottom to balance out the one in the middle. I think that one in particular is really what takes it down a lot for me. I love the headpiece though, the veil over the spades. It does kind of remind me a little bit aesthetically of the Alexander McQueen collection that I can't remember the name of, that Paquita's Hell look also reminds me of. The headpiece and the antlers and all of that. This look has great impact on the runway, and it is still a good look overall. For me, it is not my favorite, and it didn't really wow me. I was just whelmed, so I'm gonna give this an okay. Up next, we have Hornella Gongora. Her look specifically is meant to be Martirio in the 80s. Her peinetta really does remind me of that sort of abstract postmodernist color palette and aesthetic, and I think it works really well with this hairstyle. I adore this gown. I love the silhouette on this. Out of all 5 of the gowns this week, to me, this is the most flamenco inspired, but in a way that's evolved into a fashion direction. I love the treatment of the skirt, and then I love the treatment of the sleeves. It's really effective when you've got this red underneath it, especially it's the ruffles and all of that to really add that volume. It's a great pop of color. I think this is one of my favorite looks that Hornella has worn over the course of the season. The only thing that I'm not a huge fan of with this look are the sunglasses. Martirio's sunglasses were usually like embellished, detailed, kind of wacky at times. Her sunglasses aren't elevated to the level that the rest of the look is. But if you're gonna do this peinetta that is as exaggerated as hers is to the point where it no longer looks like a comb, I think you could exaggerate the glasses just a little bit. She could have done like a wider cat eye frame, or honestly even Jiriji's glasses, like swap them. I think Jiriji's sunglasses would have worked better on Hornella's look. That being said though, that's the only problem I have with this. This is getting a slay. Up next we have Drag Sethless. Now, initially, when I first saw this look as it rounded the corner, I was floored. This is an incredible silhouette. I love the headpiece, and I love how the headpiece is a huge exaggerated peinetta. However, when you get into the details of this, her look specifically is more based off of the fan, the flamenco fan, but the fan that she's incorporated into the look is like just tacked on to the front of the bodice of the dress, and it's just there. In addition to that, typically fans have more than like a 3-pronged structure, so it just looks really odd. The wig being this like really sculpted plasticky thing that the peinetta is stuck into, you know, is like a mounted structure. I understand the engineering of it, but I don't really like it that much. It's just not particularly my favorite. She does get the note from the judges that her drag still, even if it's not like super heavily Canary Island inspired that day, you can still tell that like the Canary Island drag runs through her even when she's doing something that's different or that's more fashionable. Those roots are still there. And I agree with that, and I love that. That's one of my favorite things about Sethless that I've said from the beginning. My favorite part of the dress itself, actually, is I didn't even realize there's like a power mesh section above where the bodice starts, that there's a zipper that just goes down the center of it. I think that part of it is really interesting. However, my issue was the bodice, the way it's cut. I thought the dress was sliding down her body the whole time. But if it goes up over the shoulders, if it's got that strap to keep it all up, there is, quite frankly, no reason why the bodice should not have been cut higher in the design process, so that way her nipples aren't popping out the entire time, basically. I liked the cut on the back of it. I thought it was actually really flattering and really delicate. Her look was one that I felt conflicted about because I like it. I think it is a great spectacle piece. I think it is a really cool look on its own. However, I don't really see the theme. The sunglasses as well, they're like on a stick, kind of like a masquerade mask. But to me, this look does not read as Martirio, especially when I'm looking at other references and looks of hers. I can't believe I'm saying this on a look that objectively, theme removed, is this good. I'm just gonna give this an okay. Like, I kind of like left disappointed with it. And on top of that, to me, this is not a flamenco dress. And that's such a huge part of Martirio's aesthetic. Not my fave for that reason. Up next, we have Poupée Poisson. I hated this. I hated that the peinetta is basically like a pop-up that she's wearing as a backpack. I appreciate the idea of it, but it just looks clunky. I think had it just been the dress that had that as the back of it, and it was like a raised collar, very Disney villain, I think that could have been done interestingly. But the way that it's done where it's like over the shoulders, I really don't like. And then on top of that, this is just basically a simple flamenco dress silhouette. I don't think it's exaggerated enough to really go into that drag space. But I love this color. I think it looks really gorgeous on her, and I like the sleeves. It's just when you look at it compared to the other 4, it lacks taste. I don't expect high taste, high caliber, like glamorous drag from Poupée. I had an immediate negative reaction to this when I first saw it. I see what she's going for, but I think it's a really big miss. So for that reason, I'm gonna give this an A. Finally today, we have Samantha Valentine's. At first, I really wasn't a huge fan of it, but Martirio often represented kind of like the everyday woman of Spain. The housewife, the stay-at-home mom, woman on the go. And Samantha's look really gives me that specific point of reference with the apron, the dishwashing gloves as well that have the nails. I really enjoyed that detail. What I love most is that like the trim on the apron is the same fabric as the gloves. I think that's a really nice touch. And I love that her glasses are a different shape. When I look at Martirio's looks over the years and the dramatic stuff, the scale, the styling, colors, all of that, Samantha's looks the most like something I would actually see Martirio wear. It's something that's very much an homage to everyday Spanish life, but it's dragged out to this grand proportions, grand scale. I love the pinata in this. I love that it's got like elements of traditional Spanish pinatas, but it's her initials. I think that's very fun. I love all the fruit in the headpiece, the scale of it. It's balanced really, really nicely. And she's done this on top of something that has a very traditional styled flamenco skirt, but also is done in a very modern way. I really liked that she brought the cart in there. And then with the fruit and the apron, it really does bring out that housewife vibe, just glamorously going off on her errands. I cannot believe, I think this is the first time I'm giving Samantha a slay. And then on top of that, when you get into the lip sync this week, by and large, in my opinion, Samantha delivered the greatest lip sync we have seen all season. And honestly, one of my favorite lip syncs that I've seen in the history of Drag Race España. She knew every single word. She delivered the emotion of the song. I left that episode feeling something watching her perform. That I can only say that Carmen Farala's final lip sync for The Crown in season 1 made me feel. Like that energy, that power, that drama. She had it down to a T. Phenomenal. I couldn't imagine anybody else getting a win on this episode for that. And honestly, the preseason spoilers that were out and about was that Samantha was going to be in the bottom 2 times and was basically going to get dragged to the finale, get favored in the finale, and then not deserve to necessarily be there. But with this track record, I think I want her to win now. And with that, I think it goes without saying that this week's Slay of the Day is going to be Samantha Valentine's, which is a sentence I never thought I was going to utter in my entire life. I'm really here for it. Like, I'm glad to see it. Seeing what winning the roast meant to her and how she made it to the finals after having a really shitty run in her original season, I hope she wins. I really hope she wins. Here we are, we've got our 4 finalists. I believe there's a reunion next week, but I don't know if it's gonna air on WoW Presents Plus or not. If not, I'll see what the looks are, and maybe next week we'll do that review of just the reunion looks. But other than that, we're in the home stretch, y'all. We've only got the finale left on this season, and then we have our new winner. I will be making that post-crowning ranking video, our first one, which I'm very excited for because I've got a very cute little format for it. And then that'll be it. Thank you so much for all the support recently, and on top of that, all the support this season with this coverage. I know this has been like the lowest viewed one, but I appreciate each and every person who has been here watching along for the ride. Be sure to go out there, stay kind, stay queer, and make sure that your day is very slay.